The CNN studio was alive. Flooded with blinding lights, the room radiated the kind of restless energy you could feel in your bones. The sharp hum of electricity buzzed through the air, mixing with the faint scent of freshly polished wood and overheated cables. Cameras lined the edges of the stage like silent predators, their lenses shifting and zooming, ready to capture every flicker of emotion, every slip of the tongue. Behind them, rows of journalists whispered into phones, typing furiously, preparing headlines they hadn't yet written but somehow knew were coming. Inside the control room, producers barked into headsets, their voices low but urgent. Stay tight on Conway's face. Hold Crockett on camera too. Anticipate fireworks. Tonight could change everything. And they were right. At the center of it all stood Kellyanne Conway, the battle-hardened strategist of the Republican Party. Her reputation preceded her razor-sharp instincts, unshakable loyalty to her side, and a record of turning political debates into verbal bloodsport. Her blonde hair was flawlessly styled, her navy blue blazer immaculate. Every detail, from the way she rested one hand on the podium to the precision of her controlled breathing, screamed preparedness. Across from her, seated calmly at the opposite desk, was Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a rising Democratic star, former civil rights attorney. A woman who had built her reputation not on shouting matches, but on facts, discipline, and relentless composure. Her natural curls framed a face both gentle and unyielding. Her folded hands rested lightly on the desk, steady, unmoving, like the calm before an earthquake. And yet beneath Crockett's stillness, there was an unmistakable fire. Every fiber of her body was tuned to the moment, ready for whatever came next. Around them, the room pulsed with silent tension. The audience shifted in their seats, leaning forward instinctively, though no one dared to speak. In the far back, a young intern clutched her tablet so tightly her knuckles whitened. Even veteran journalists, hardened by decades of political theater, sensed they were witnessing something that would not be forgotten. Because no one knew that in just a few minutes, 7 quiet words would break the rhythm of power, shatter the tension, and send shockwaves across America. Kellyanne Conway leaned forward, both hands gripping the podium as if it were a weapon. Her voice, sharp and deliberate, cut through the thick silence of the CNN studio. Congresswoman Crockett, your so-called integrity is nothing more than a fade. The words hung in the air like a blade. The room fell silent. Conway didn't stop there. She pressed harder, her tone rising, eyes blazing. You sit here pretending to defend the American people while pushing policies that divide us? You lecture this country on morality, yet your record speaks otherwise. Gasps rippled through the audience. In the control room, a producer mouthed silently, "This is it." The camera zoomed in tight on Conway's face, jaw clenched, voice trembling just slightly under the weight of her own fury. She thought she had Crockett cornered, but the camera on Crockett told a different story. The shot framed her perfectly calm, composed hands folded neatly on the desk. Her eyes, steady, unshaken, locked onto Conway with the quiet intensity of someone who had walked into this fight fully prepared. No raised eyebrows, no defensive gestures. Just stillness. That stillness was louder than any words she could have spoken. And for the first time that night, the audience began to sense it. Something was coming. Something bigger than anyone in the room had imagined. Kellyanne Conway snapped. Her palms slammed down onto the podium with a thunderous crack that echoed across the studio. She leaned forward, her blonde hair brushing the microphone, and jabbed a finger directly at Jasmine Crockett. "Enough with the games, Congresswoman," she barked, her voice cutting like broken glass. "You sit there with that smug little smile pretending to represent the people, while your so-called policies destroy the very country you claim to protect." The words struck like bullets. Each syllable came faster, harder, layered with years of pent-up frustration. "Don't lecture me about integrity." Conway roared, her voice cracking under the weight of her fury. "I have spent decades fighting for this nation, while you've barely been in Washington long enough to find your seat." The crowd shifted uneasily, murmurs rippling through the audience. A producer in the control room whispered into his headset, "Stay tight on Conway, she's about to blow." Conway's voice rose another octave, trembling with raw emotion. "You and your party hide behind pretty words, justice, equality, compassion, but it's all a fade. You're tearing this country apart while acting like saints." She slammed her fist on the podium again. The microphones rattled. For a split second, the entire CNN studio froze. Even the hum of the lights seemed to fade, as if the air itself was holding its breath. And yet, despite Conway's explosion, Jasmine Crockett didn't move an inch. Jasmine Crockett did not move. Not a flinch, not a blink. While Kellyanne Conway's voice thundered through the CNN studio, Crockett remained perfectly still, hands folded neatly on the desk. She didn't interrupt. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't even sigh. The camera caught it all, the calm in the middle of chaos. While Conway's anger filled every corner of the room, Crockett's silence became deafening. The audience leaned forward instinctively, holding their breath. In the control room, a producer whispered into his headset, "Stay on her face. Don't cut. This is powerful." Because Crockett understood something critical. This was not just a debate. It was a battle for perception. Millions were watching and every gesture mattered. She knew matching Conway's fury with her own would only feed the fire. Instead, she chose restraint. She chose discipline. She chose silence. But it wasn't passive silence. It was strategic. It was calculated. It was the silence of a woman who knew that in this moment, the entire country was measuring her composure against Conway's rage. And in that silence, Jasmine Crockett was already winning. 90 seconds. For 90 relentless seconds, Kellyanne Conway had unleashed everything. Her voice, sharp, furious, unyielding, pounded through the studio like rolling thunder. She slammed the podium, jabbed her finger, hurled accusations one after another, each louder than the last. And yet Jasmine Crockett still hadn't spoken a word. Then it happened. The moment the entire nation would replay millions of times. Calmly, deliberately, Crockett reached for her glass of water. Her fingers were steady, her breathing unbroken. She lifted the glass, holding it for a second, letting the tension stretch to its breaking point, and took a slow, deliberate sip. 1, 2, 3 seconds. The cameras locked onto her face. Her expression was unreadable, perfectly composed, the eye of the storm, and in living rooms across America, people leaned forward without even realizing it. Every breath caught, every whisper silenced. It wasn't just a sip of water. It was a declaration without words. I will not be shaken. In that suspended moment, the contrast became undeniable. Conway's storm of fury against Crockett's unshakable calm. And suddenly everyone watching knew something extraordinary was about to happen. And then after 90 unbroken seconds of thunder, Jasmine Crockett finally spoke. She set her glass of water down with care, her fingers resting lightly on the table. She leaned forward just slightly, her gaze steady, her voice calm and soft. "Miss Conway, I appreciate your passion." 7 words. That's all it took. The impact was instantaneous. It was as if someone had hit a mute button on the entire CNN studio. The shouting stopped. The murmurs died. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. Kellyanne Conway froze. Her lips parted as if to fire back, but nothing came out. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the podium, her expression suspended between fury and disbelief. The audience sat in stunned silence. No one moved. No one even blinked. Because everyone knew they had just witnessed something rare. This wasn't just a reply. It was a masterclass in control. 7 quiet words had overpowered 90 seconds of chaos. And in that moment, Jasmine Crockett owned the room without raising her voice, without breaking her composure, without uttering anything more than necessary. History didn't always roar. Sometimes it whispered. It started with a single clip. CNN uploaded the 47-second exchange to YouTube. Within the first hour, it had 2 million views. By the end of the night, it had exploded across every corner of the internet. On Twitter, the hashtag began trending worldwide, #CalmLikeJasmine. People couldn't stop talking about it. Users clipped the moment over and over again, Conway red-faced, shouting, hands slamming on the podium. Crockett calm, still unshaken, simply whispering, "Miss Conway, I appreciate your passion." TikTok exploded with memes. Split screen edits showed Conway screaming on one side and Crockett sipping her water on the other. The caption, "Power isn't volume, power is control." Instagram Reels flooded in. Slowed-down versions of Crockett's 7 words were paired with soft background music, turning her composure into a symbol of grace under pressure. Even late-night hosts joined in. One quipped, 7 words, 2 million views, and one very silent Conway. In less than 12 hours, #CalmLikeJasmine wasn't just a hashtag. It was a movement. By sunrise, America had split into 2 camps. On social media, the comment sections erupted. This is what real strength looks like. Calm beats chaos every single time." Another user wrote, "Jasmine Crockett just gave a masterclass in control. 90 seconds of shouting, 7 words of composure, game over." Supporters of Crockett flooded her pages with praise. Thank you for showing the country what true leadership looks like. Power isn't about volume, it's about staying steady under fire. But what surprised everyone was the reaction from conservative voters. Even some who disagreed deeply with Crockett's politics admitted reluctantly that she'd handled the moment flawlessly. "I don't agree with Crockett on almost anything," one user tweeted, "but credit where it's due, the way she handled Conway was pure class." On TikTok, reaction videos flooded in by the thousands. Older voters posted clips saying, "I've seen a lot of debates in my life, but this was something else." Cable news networks scrambled to cover the story, each spinning it differently. Progressive outlets praised Crockett as a symbol of emotional intelligence. Conservative outlets defended Conway's passion, but couldn't deny she had lost control. By noon, one thing became undeniable. Jasmine Crockett hadn't just won a debate. She had reshaped the narrative, becoming a symbol of composure, grace, and strength in a political landscape addicted to outrage. In the days that followed, Jasmine Crockett's world transformed. Her office phone never stopped ringing. Within 48 hours, she received more than 60 interview requests from the nation's biggest networks: CNN, ABC, MSNBC, even Fox News. But Crockett turned down most of them. While others might have seized the spotlight, she chose a different path. "I'm not interested in becoming a celebrity," she told her staff. "I'm here to do the work the people sent me to do." And she meant it. Instead of parading from studio to studio, Crockett returned to Capitol Hill. She poured her energy into policy hearings and legislation, letting her actions speak louder than any headline ever could. This choice only elevated her image. To voters, she wasn't just another politician chasing fame. She was a leader who valued substance over spectacle, a public servant, not a performer. Then came the TED Talk. 2 weeks later, she took the stage to deliver composure as a political strategy. The lights dimmed, the red TED letters glowed behind her. With the same calm presence she showed on CNN, Crockett spoke about staying steady in the face of chaos and how composure can disarm even the loudest opponent. Within its first week online, the talk surpassed 5 million views. Clips circulated everywhere, used in classrooms, leadership seminars, and corporate trainings. Jasmine Crockett was no longer just a rising star. She had become a symbol, proof that in a noisy political landscape, grace under pressure could still triumph. The storm that Kellyanne Conway herself had unleashed now turned against her. Within just 24 hours, clips of her shouting, slamming the table, and pointing aggressively at Jasmine Crockett had flooded every platform: Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, even late-night shows. At first, Conway doubled down. In a Fox News interview, she accused Crockett of playing the victim and mocked her for sipping water while Rome burns. But this approach backfired instantly. Comments exploded: "Kellyanne, you're proving Jasmine's point. This is exactly why we need calmer voices in politics." The backlash was so intense that Conway's favorability ratings dropped by 11% in just 3 days. Republican strategists privately urged her to pivot fast before the damage became permanent. 2 days later, Kellyanne stepped in front of the cameras again, this time a different woman. Her tone was softer, her sentences slower. She took a deep breath and admitted, "I lost my composure. It happens. But we should never let passion overshadow purpose." It was damage control, but for many it felt too late. The contrast between the two women was already burned into America's memory. Conway, anger, chaos, loss of control. Crockett, calm poise, quiet strength. For the first time in years, Kellyanne wasn't the one shaping the narrative. She had become part of it, and not in a way she wanted. For years, the golden rule of political TV was simple: whoever shouts louder wins. Cable news rewarded conflict. Heated exchanges went viral, and politicians learned to weaponize outrage. Kellyanne Conway had mastered this game, dominating headlines for years by raising her voice and cutting opponents off. But Jasmine Crockett rewrote the rules in just 90 seconds. Her calm demeanor, measured tone, and effortless composure flipped the narrative. Suddenly, the clips dominating social media weren't Conway's angry outbursts. They were slow-motion shots of Crockett sipping water, unbothered, in control. The new lesson: the calmer you are, the more powerful you appear. Political analysts on CNN and MSNBC called it a paradigm shift in televised debates. Instead of fighting fire with fire, Crockett showed that ice beats fire. And for millions of viewers, it wasn't just about policy anymore. It was about presence, authority, and emotional intelligence. Crockett didn't just win the debate. She changed the game. Jasmine Crockett didn't just win a debate, she became a cultural phenomenon. Before that CNN segment, she was a relatively low-profile congresswoman known mostly within Texas political circles. Afterwards, she was everywhere: late-night talk shows, magazine covers, TikTok compilations, even corporate leadership workshops, using her clip as a masterclass in composure under fire. The hashtag calm like Jasmine exploded, but it went beyond politics. People started using it in everyday life. College students whisper it before presentations. Startup founders mention it in pitch meetings. Therapists reference it when teaching emotional regulation. Suddenly, Crockett's image stood for something bigger than partisanship. She became the face of emotional intelligence and leadership. CNN analysts called it the Crockett effect, proof that measured calm could dismantle chaos in real time. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need to dominate airtime. With one sip of water and 7 deliberate words, Jasmine Crockett went from unknown lawmaker to symbol of modern political elegance. Calm isn't weakness, she later told The Atlantic. It's strategy. In a rare interview weeks after the CNN clash, Jasmine Crockett finally revealed the secret behind her composure, and it traced back to her grandmother. When others lower their standards, she recalled her grandma saying, "Don't lower yourself to meet them." Growing up in Beaumont, Texas, Jasmine's grandmother was the anchor of her life. A retired schoolteacher with a soft voice but unshakable authority, she taught Jasmine that self-control is power, especially for a black woman in a room where people expect you to lose it. Those words became her invisible armor. On CNN, when Conway's voice rose, Jasmine remembered her grandmother's gentle warning. Anger is loud, dignity is quiet. Instead of clashing, she let the silence work for her. The world heard her restraint louder than any shouting match could deliver. That one lesson from decades ago, passed down in a small Texas kitchen, became the strategy that reshaped her public identity. In politics, as in life, true power rarely belongs to the loudest voice. It belongs to the one who can stay calm in the middle of a storm. Jasmine Crockett didn't win because she shouted louder. She won because she refused to play by Conway's rules. She let composure become her weapon, and the world took notice. Now, the viral mantra "calm like Jasmine" has grown beyond one debate. It's a reminder for anyone facing chaos, confrontation, or injustice. Sometimes silence cuts deeper than any scream. So let me ask you this. If it were you, would you choose to yell or choose to stay silent and win? The showdown between Jasmine Crockett and Conway wasn't just another heated political debate. It was a masterclass in emotional control and a reminder of where true power really lies. In life, you'll always face people who try to provoke you, disrespect you, or drag you down to their level. The natural instinct is to shout back, defend yourself, and prove a point. But Jasmine showed us a different kind of strength. Power isn't about who yells the loudest. It's about who stays calm when the storm hits. It's about leading the narrative, not being pulled into someone else's chaos. Her grandmother's advice says it best. When someone lowers their standards, don't lower yourself to meet them. In both politics and real life, you don't always have to win with words. Sometimes the quietest response speaks the loudest. If you believe that calmness beats chaos, do this right now. Subscribe to Mr. Exposed Stories for more powerful insights. Like this video if Jasmine's composure inspired you. Comment below "I choose calm over chaos" to spread the message. Share this story so more people know that silence can be louder than shouting. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss the next story.